Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We will get started in a couple of minutes. Good morning. Happy to have you all here. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. We'll just wait for folks to join. We have quite a large crowd today, so happy to see you all here. I am going to upload a few documents in the chat box that you could open and have access to while our finance team is sharing information. So give me 1 second while I do that, and then we'll kick off. All right, if you all can, anyone who's looking at their chat can confirm in the chat box that you all received those. I'm gonna probably send those a few times during the meeting, so they'll come through just so everyone knows what we're going through and has access to them. Excellent, thank you, Lisa, appreciate it. Great, all right. All right, let's kick us off. We wanna make sure to respect your time, and we have until 11. So good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Guzman Rocha. I'm the Director of Enrichment for the Youth Division here at the Department of Family and Support Services. Happy to see all of you. If you're able to turn your camera on, it'd be great to see you all. I know it's hard sometimes sitting behind the screen and not knowing what folks look like. So happy to be here, happy to join you all. And on behalf of the Youth Division, want to welcome our finance team here, Mahida and her folks. She'll be leading us through the training today. Just want to give a shout out to all our youth service coordinators and all our youth service division staff who are working with you all the time and always available to answer your questions. And happy to have you all join us and hear all of this valuable information that Mahida is going to go through. So I will pass it over to Mahida. I'm happy to monitor the chat. I know, folks will have a lot of questions, and so we're happy to take those questions now, or if we have to get back to you, we certainly will do that. So I will hand it over to Mahida now. Good morning, Mahida.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, can everyone see my screen that I have up?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we are here today to go over the overview of the City of Chicago standard delegate agency form, as well as the DFSS's budget revision process for the youth division. I want to go over the agenda we will be covering. So we'll start off with welcome and introductions. My name is Mahida Cizak, Director of Finance. I came on board in October. There are a number of you that I have spoke with either via the phone or email correspondence. We had last convened for a technical assistance training back in January. Since then, we've had some additions to our team, as well as some of our veteran staff that have been with DFSS for a number of years. My counterpart, Carmen Alvarez, she is the newly added addition to our team. She is the supervisor of accounting. Unfortunately, due to an emergency, she is not able to join for the training this morning, but she started with us in June of this year, and she will be overseeing the youth division as well as the workforce division finance team on a day-to-day basis. I will still be providing oversight for youth, workforce, as well as senior services. And with that being said, I'm going to ping it on to Darnetta Anderson.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Darnetta Anderson, and I'm the accountant here, and I primarily work on the youth services contracts. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, we have some background noise going
Oh,
on.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Did everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
There's
All
a lot
right.
happening on that finance division and the contracts division over there.
Yes, it is.
It's never a dull moment. We'll move it on to Anthony Bruce.
Oh yeah, I'm Anthony, and I work on youth contracts also.
Okay. Do we have anyone else from the team? Is Muriel on the line?
Yes. Hi, I'm Daria Buckner and I am the accountant. I work on vouchers.
Okay, thank you. We also have Emma Hine. She's currently out of the office, but she is a contracted worker that is providing additional support for the youth and workforce divisions. She has been integral in assisting with processing of the summer agency budgets, as well as our workforce division budgets. And that rounds up our team. I want to kick it off to the program staff that are on the call for just a quick hello.
I'll jump in. What was that? Lisa Davis, were you going to say something? Hi. Good morning, everyone. I know I saw some of you yesterday, so great to see you. Evelyn Benitez, Youth Services Coordinator, who works on One Summer Chicago, so Chicagobility, OSC Plus, SYEP, and the Chicago Youth Service Corps. Great to see you. A couple of you actually already submitted budget revisions, and I'm reviewing those as we speak. So great to be here. Thank you, Mahida, and your team for being amazing. I'll kick it over to Lisa Davis because I see her.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our budget revision and finance training review. Hope everyone is doing well. Wish you the best of days, and thank you for being here. Oh, Lisa Davis, One Summer Chicago. Sorry.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Cesar Garza. Happy Thursday. I'm with the Youth Division, Youth Services Coordinator. And I'll pass it on to the next person.
Good morning. I guess I'm the next person. My name is Karen Nolan. I'm a Youth Service Coordinator, the other half of the enrichment team. Thank you for joining us this morning, and I hope we can get a lot of information covered, and all of you are taking great notes. Thank you to the finance team for putting this together.
Anyone else? Is there anyone from prevention and intervention joining us?
I don't think so. Sam's on the call, Dunleavy's out, Lisa's out.
Samantha's on the call?
No, she's actually on another conference call.
Got it. Okay, we can continue.
I think Raysana is on her way too. She's having a little trouble connecting, but she's here.
Wonderful. Okay. I'm going to proceed on because we have a lot to cover. The next on the agenda will be a review of objectives, and then we will proceed with reviewing the standard delegate agency budget forms. We will go over allowable costs, guidance, and
We're looking at the budget forms. Not sure if you're sharing the PowerPoint or you're going through the PowerPoint. We can see the budget forms.
okay, hold on. Let me change my view. Thanks, Maria. Okay, can we all see the agenda?
Oh, still looking at budget forms. There we go. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bearing with us as we make the adjustments. We'll be going over reminders on allowable costs, guidance, as well as the budget revision process itself. The most common budget revision errors that we have come across and how those can be prevented to not create additional delays in processing. And then I wanted to share with you some upcoming policy changes and some upcoming iSupplier trainings. And lastly, the budget revision and vouchering deadlines, which are key for 2021. And then we will conclude with questions, as Maria has stated. Any questions that we are not able to address within this time period, we will follow up on the back end and make sure that we will provide an FAQ that addresses any additional questions that we are unable to address during this training. Okay. Okay, and this is just an overview of the finance team. Myself, Mahita Cizak, Carmen Alvarez, Darnetta Anderson, Anthony Bruce, Muriel Buckner, and Emma Hine. Want to go over the objectives. We'll be providing an overview of the standard budget form used by the City of Chicago and the budget revision process. We want to be able to provide our delegates with support and technical assistance as you prepare to complete your budget revisions. And the target audience for this training is delegate agency staff who are new to the process or those that may need a refresher. Okay, jumping right into it. There were a number of attachments that Maria provided in the chat, so it would probably be beneficial if you are able to pull up the budget form as I walk through the different forms and the steps required for completion. So once again, the delegate agency budget form that the city uses is to ensure consistency in the collection and submission of your agency's budget and expense requests. It's an Excel workbook, and there are required information in fields that are highlighted in yellow that are to be completed. The budget forms consist of Form 1, which is termed the budget summary form, Form 2, which is the personnel budget, Forms 2A, 2B, and 2C only if needed to capture additional personnel, and Form 3, which is for non-personnel budget requests. The budget forms are locked from editing in areas where information is not needed. It is very critical that information be inputted only in the required shaded areas in yellow. Budget Form 1, which is the budget summary form, is composed of 3 sections. The first half of Form 1 is what we call the header. And this is where general information is needed. On the left-hand side, A through G is where your agency will complete the required fields. On the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, excuse me, is items J through N. And information will be provided either by the agency and or in consult with the department. Items O through Q will be provided by the department. The middle half of Form 1 will be where all of the requested budget items and their amounts for grant award share, other delegate agency funds used under other share, and the total cost of the requests. The bottom half of Form 1 will be where there are signatures required, and it will be by the authorized signatory of your agency on the left-hand side. And the city authorization will be the manager at the Department of Family and Support Services for the Youth Division. The forms have not changed from what was released in the beginning of the year. The only addition is the name change of the new supervisor that has joined the team as of June. Those forms have been emailed out as well as provided in the chat, and these should be the forms to use for the remaining of this year. On my screen is a visual of Form 1. We've went over the left-hand side and the required information that's needed by the agency, and the right-hand side that is inputted by the agency and/or department. The middle area is a summary of the total request of the funding for the grant award share, other agency funding noted in the other share, and the total cost. Jumping too soon. Rerunning through what we just walked through in regards to what is required for input by the delegate agency, which will be letters A through G and letter S. You'll enter your delegate agency name, your program name, which will be on your award notice. Who is preparing this budget? Their name, their email address, and phone number. This will be the individual that will be responsible for addressing any questions in relation to the budget when it is being processed. The supplier site number, this is also noted on the award letter, will be inputted by your agency, as well as your federal employer identification number, otherwise known as the FANG or tax ID number. And lastly, the signature of the delegate official, which typically is the individual listed on your signature authorization form. We're going to move on to Form 2, which is the personnel budget. This form has two sections: personnel positions and fringe benefits. You're only required to input information in the shaded areas only. Walking through the steps of completing Form 2. Form 2 will start off with what your personnel costs are, salaries and any salary adjustments, and the total amount of personnel costs, which will be reflected in line 12 on the form. Only columns 1 through 6, 8, and 11 for each identified position will need to be completed. The bottom portion of the form will be for fringe benefits, which includes life insurance, workers' compensation, health insurance, unemployment insurance, dental plans, Medicare. The total amount of the fringe benefits will be reflected in line 19. You will be responsible for completing rows 13 through 18 for each identified fringe benefit. A detailed description is required for lines 17 and 18, which is other, as well as the calculations. I want to remind you that these forms are relational. There is automatically transferring of information based on what is inputted for total personnel and fringe benefits that will link Form 2, and if needed, Form 2A, 2B, and 2C. 2A, 2B, and 2C are only need to be completed if there are not enough rows available when completing Form 2 for your personnel positions. This information will populate on Form 1 when completing columns 3 and 5 on this form. Here is a visual of Form 2. Position title is indicated. How many number of employees within this title? What is the employee's annual salary or hourly wage? What is the number of pay periods? If it is an hourly waged employee, the number of hours will need to be indicated, but can be left blank if it is a salaried position. And what percent of time will they be working on this project for this program? The maximum compensation for each pay period will be calculated based on these inputs. The grant award share that is coming from your approved budget. The other share, other funding from your agency that will be contributing to the cost of the position, and the overall total program cost. The job responsibilities for the position will need to be completed. And then moving down to the bottom is where the fringe benefits will be inputted based on Social Security, Medicare, state unemployment insurance, state workers' compensation. And if there are other fringe benefits not defined and above, the item will need to be listed, as well as the calculation and the corresponding rate. As mentioned, if the personnel budgeted does not fit on Form 2, please complete Forms 2A, 2B, and 2C if needed. And once again, a reminder that the forms are relational and based on what is inputted would automatically transfer the total personnel amounts that are linked from each of these forms to Form 2, which will be included in the total salary line. Reminder to just input in the yellow shaded areas only. Here is a visual of Form 2A. Enter the position title, the number of employees, the annual and or hourly wage, the number of pay periods. If it's an hourly wage employee, please indicate the number of hours per pay period, the percent budgeted. The maximum compensation will be calculated. The grant award share for this position, in addition to the delegate agency's contributed funding, and the total cost for this position. And please be sure to also complete job responsibilities for this position.
We have a question if you want to take that now about the hourly employees.
Sure.
If hourly employee hours differ between pay periods, is a variance no appropriate or required, and where should it go?
I'm actually going to cover it next.
Excellent.
Okay. All right, further breaking down the number of pay periods, make sure the number of pay periods are reflective of the total term of your award. Hours per pay period. So if there's an hourly rate used, indicate the number of hours that will be worked per pay period. If the hours are not constant, use an average. There are some exceptional conditions where the maximum hours and estimated pay rate should be indicated on the job responsibilities section. For example, if the maximum hours is 50 hours, the estimated pay rate, you can indicate $50 within that justification. Does that address the question?
I believe so, but Jen, if you'd like to chat us whether you have further questions. Thanks, Mahida.
And then the percent time the position is budgeted on the project. And then a reminder, you're going to see a lot of this. Input data only in the yellow shaded areas only. And then we have a screenshot of the pay periods reflective of the enrichment program. So based on how they're run, if they're year round, school year, and summer and school breaks. Okay, going back to the maximum compensation for each pay period. Very critical. This will be the maximum amount allowed to voucher for this position for each pay period. So whatever that max is, when you're invoicing, the comptroller's office will see if this amount is exceeded. And if it is exceeded, they will only pay out up to the max amount budgeted per the approved budget. Want to proceed with every position that's listed on Form 2 through 2C. This column will automatically populate based on the formula within the spreadsheet that's entered in the grant award share. And the formula is grant award share divided by number of pay periods. Okay. And that is column D within Form 2. So you're going to indicate the total salary cost from column 10 that's going to be paid with the city or private funds. And then this is just a reference from earlier this year, instructions on how to enter that information was provided. And that's also a good tool to reference when completing these forms. And the rule, the grant award share can be equal to or less than the total cost, but the grant award share can never exceed the total cost. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, and then going on under column 9, other share under Form 2, another automatically, computed amount, which will be reflected in other share. And another reminder, there should be never a negative number listed under the other share. That should be a trigger to check what has been inputted to make sure that negative is removed. And the formula is column 10 minus column 8 on Form 2. So column 10 is total program cost minus column 8, which is grant award share. And that will determine your other share. And then column 10, total program cost, this will be automatically populated based on the formulas that are entered in column 2 through column 6. Column 2 is the number of employees. Column 3 is the annual salary and or hourly wage. Column 4 is number of pay periods. Column 5 is hours per pay period. And column 6 is percent time of budgeted on the project. Only input data in the shaded yellow areas only.
We have a few questions. Let me know when you're ready.
Sure.
So Jen had a follow-up to her original question about the employee hours differing between pay periods. Is documentation then required only for the average number of hours per pay period?
Yes. So, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the next question is, can the number of pay periods be partial to account for personnel changes?
Can they be partial, meaning not for the entire year?
Janet, you're welcome to take yourself off mute. But she said yes.
Yes, it should be reflected for however long that they are planning to be funded from this grant.
Okay. great.
And then I'm assuming if there's another, will there be another position that will come on board, or it's just for a part-time or partial employee, part-time employee?
Yes, part-time employee.
Yes, so just indicate the number of pay periods that are reflective of how long they are planning to work with the program.
Great. And then Penny has a tip. You could also check your balance of your line items against what you have billed in iSupplier. And then there's another question from Mark Brown. Can we use our approved NICRA rather than the standard 10%?
Yes, yes, we'll cover that as well. Absolutely.
I think we're good for now.
Okay.
Thanks, Mahida.
Sure, thank you. Okay, going under fringe benefits on Form 2, Social Security and Medicare, also known as the Federal Insurance Contribution Act. This total cost will be computed automatically based on the form on the total salary cost. And calculations for Social Security is the total salary cost times 6.20%. Medicare total salary cost times 1.45%. Okay. And then just a little bit more detail on the fringe benefits. Just know item 15 on Form 2, the state unemployment insurance, that rate varies by agencies. Same thing for item 16 under state workers' compensation, rate varies by agency. Item 17 and 18, any other fringe benefits for the program, such as health insurance, dental, make sure you're spelling the item out, as well as providing the calculation within the justifications and the rate used. Show all computations and make sure the calculations are completed and clear. Fringe benefits, grant award share, indicate the amount that's going to be applied to the grant. Other share will be automatically computed based on the amount the fringe benefits are. And then the formula, once again, total cost minus grant award share equals other share. And a reminder again, other share should never be a negative number. And this will complete the personnel section of the form. Moving on.
We have a couple questions about the same thing. Is there no longer a percentage requirement for other share?
It depends on the program. For the summer program, it's a 15% administrative cost, and for 10% for match. Evelyn, if you want to confirm that for your program.
I was just gonna say that I was jumping back on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so for One Summer Chicago, because obviously the contracts are much higher and because we provide the allocation for the overall program, we do look for a 10% match. And then, as you know, when Lisa Davis or I send out the budget allocations, we do provide a 15% admin cost just to cover the cost of the programs since it's such a short turnaround time.
And Maria, did you want to speak on enrichments match?
Yeah, I'll open it to Caesar or Karen if you guys want to chime in.
Yeah, we require a 15% match for enrichment in CHA.
But depending on your program model, you know, you would want to indicate the required match and the other share. Were there any more questions, Maria?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right, moving on to Form 3. So these are all of our non-personnel related costs. This is a screenshot of a completed Form 3 and some allowable costs that are notated under operating and technical, professional technical, travel, materials and supplies. Equipment is non-applicable for the youth division, and indirect. There was a change this year. There are 4 options that your agency has the ability to utilize. Option 1 being the 10% de minimis, and their standard required language that needs to be inputted within the justification. And then the question about the approved negotiated indirect cost. If your agency has one in place, that also can be utilized with the respective standard language and a copy of the indirect cost agreement for your federally negotiated rate would be required. And does not apply, but some agencies not in youth have a state indirect cost agreement. That would be option 3. And then the standard language would be inputted. And lastly, if you are not planning to claim any indirect costs, whether it's the 10% or based on your approved indirect cost rate, language stating that you elect to decline indirect cost recovery, which is option 4, must be inputted within the justification. And then this is a sample of field trips and justification as it relates to bus rental for field trips, award ceremonies. And then the second line is an example of stipends, which would require an attachment A for the wage calculation. So we will go deeper into this form and just want to give you some tips in relation to operating and technical costs. Please do not include any kind of vague descriptions such as other administrative costs. Please try to be concise, but spell what those costs may be. Your description should always be tied to specific bills so that these costs can be reimbursed. If you're including rent, make sure you're providing us with your most up-to-date rental agreement with your budget. And if you're including leasing a van, please also provide a lease agreement. And these are operating and technical allowable costs. Anything from audit-related costs to rental of equipment and services, to postage, to technical meeting costs, to memberships, to dues, to subscriptions. Those would all be reflected under the 0100 account, under operating and technical, under Form 3. Moving on to professional and technical services. This is our 0140 account. Anything related to consultants, subcontractors, and those that are not on the payroll, that are contracted staff or coordinators and instructors can also be listed here. Accounting services, IT services, and any speakers. If the coordinators and instructors are on your payroll, then they should be reflected on Form 2 under personnel. And then moving down to travel, for local travel, mileage, parking, Uber, Lyft, venture cards for youth participants. Field trips do not go on this line. They will be reflected under the 0999 account line. Also, when you're conducting intake for the youth, make sure you're gauging to see if they need venture cards. There's also guidance later in this presentation in regards to tracking sheets and the policy that we have in place that can be reshared. This information was also provided in the beginning of the year, but just want to reference back to those guidelines. If you're including any bus or van rentals, make sure it's only for programs actually going to the work sites or project sites, and that it's absolutely necessary for the program to transport these youth to and from the sites. If you're renting a bus and van for field trips, as mentioned, that should go under the 0999 line. Moving on to materials and supplies, this can range from office supplies, program supplies, fuel for agency vehicles, gasoline gift cards, snacks, clothing, uniforms, audiovisual materials, books, computers, software, all depending on your program. We want to make sure that, you know, if there's any specific gasoline related gift cards, you know, we have some guidance in place, but always, you know, check with your program liaison. This also would be the area where, you know, fuel for agency vehicles would be listed. So not under the travel line, but also under the materials and supplies line. And then just a reminder for Chicago Ability Program model agencies, they're not eligible to distribute gas cards for youth. And then just a reminder about, you know, when you're screening youth, you know, to determine if they need the gas cards or venture cards, because they may have their own vehicle and that they'll be using to get to work. So just something to keep in mind. We do have tracking sheets, you know, for gift cards and gas cards that should be utilized by your agencies and kept as supporting documentation. And I believe we already covered fuel should be listed under 0300, and gift cards as it relates to incentives should be listed under 0999. And then we touched upon indirect costs. So this is notated in account 0801. And as mentioned, this year, it was a change in regards to the standard language that is required under Form 3, based on the option that's selected. You're requesting the 10% de minimis. Just the standard language will be needed on Form 3. No additional letter is needed for 10% de minimis. If you do have a federally negotiated approved rate, a copy of that approved indirect costs will be needed, as well as the standard language and the rate that your agency is approved for. And most importantly, if you're not electing to request indirect, please be sure to enter under Form 3 under justification, elect to decline indirect cost recovery. These are standard boilerplate language that is required for 2021 by the Office of Budget Management, as well as the city's Department of Finance. And then moving on to other under account 0999, so field trip admission, bus rental for field trips, award ceremonies, the youth stipends, any costs that are not specifically identified under the other accounts. Depreciation, that also can be listed under 0999, any type of end of program celebration costs, and as mentioned, incentives for youth participants are listed under 0999. And then, you know, for our summer agencies under 0999, we have our youth wages, and then any stipends that will also require an attachment A, and ensure the required information is notated with the justification and the calculation. And then for our scan model, any of their supportive services, in the beginning of the year, we provided guidance as to some of those items and where they will be reflected on the budget, which will be under 0999. And then if there are any coaches, coordinators, instructors, we also have an attachment B that can be utilized that will help provide detail on the calculation in regards to those wages, and as well as job responsibilities. And this is specific to our centralized payroll agencies. They have a budget form that has a line to find out that is for ADP. Just want to mention that during the budget revision process, these specific agencies that have centralized payroll, there will be no opportunity to revise these lines under 0999. And then this is just, a breakdown on how the gross salary that's paid by ADP and the rate in which that it's calculated. And just a reminder that this is a varied rate, and also this only applies to a select few agencies relating to the summer program. And then this is just a screenshot of the allowable costs specific to our SCAN youth program model. Just a reminder always to reach out to your assigned liaison if you have any questions in regards to, approvals and or where items need to be reflected appropriately. And this is a sample of a completed attachment A. So for wages and or stipends, calculations showing the actual gross salary, Social Security, Medicare, any other fringe benefit costs, and then the total requested wage expense. And this will be tied back to your request on Form 3 under line 0999. And then here is a sample attachment B for coaches as it relates to our summer program and actual gross salary, number of coaches, times the number of hours the coaches will work, times the cost per hour and the number of weeks, and then their respective fringe benefits, and then the total requested wage expense. And make sure you're showing all your computations. And this will also be reflected under the other line 0999. Okay, so we went over a lot of information. Just want to give some additional guidance and some reminders. Please, if you have not done so already, review the gift card and CTA transit card policy that was initially released in 2018. And this is provided annually to all of our delegates for their review and to ensure that the requirements are followed. Make sure you're verifying that all shaded fields in yellow on the budget forms are completed. Make sure your budget forms are properly formatted and legible. Please don't cut off any descriptions or pages. Please also verify that the correct number of budget pages are included. All the budget forms, especially for a budget revision that are required for submission, is Form 1, which is the budget summary, Form 1A, which is the budget revision form, Form 2, which is for personnel, Form 3, which is for non-personnel. Make sure you're verifying the descriptions and justifications for each of your total costs requested on Form 3. And we touched upon the match requirement for the One Summer Chicago program, as well as for the Chicago Youth Service Corps. 10% match, 15% administrative costs. For enrichment, it's 15% match. Make sure the form that you're using for your upcoming budget revision has the current fund manager's name, which is Carmen Alvarez. Please be sure to sign your budget and submit it to your program liaison for approval, depending on your program model. Make sure your agency is monitoring your spending levels to determine if a budget revision is necessary. At that time, please outreach to your liaison for review and approval to move the revision forward to the finance team. And as previously stated, any questions, especially as it relates to supportive service requests, please reach out to your designated program liaison. And this is just a screenshot of the CTA and gift card tracking sheets. The number in place, the CTA or gift card, whichever one it is, the date of distribution, the name of the person distributing the card, the card number, the value of the card, the name of the person receiving the card, and then sign off by the person receiving the card. And then the agency program director or designee signature, date, and header information on your agency name, program, and what budget period this is corresponding to, as well as the date of the card purchase and the beginning balance. Okay, and now we are moving forward into being able to access your approved budget. All of the agencies already have their 2021 initial annual budgets in place. As mentioned, we are, working towards the budget revision process. So that document will be very important to reference because it has all of the required information that we just went over. And all of the approved budgets are located on the city web. There's also instructions that were shared previously that we can also resend out, but you will be utilizing your global PO number, which is associated with your contract, which is noted on your award letter, which ties back to item K on the budget summary form, which is Form 1. You'll also have a standard PO release number. This is generated once your initial budget is approved by the finance team. And that item corresponds to item M on the budget summary form. And that number is specific to how vouchering is done in iSupplier. And just a reminder, the official contract is not approved until, the city signs off on that budget, and you're able to access it on the web. And the link to retrieve your approved budgets is listed here. So that is step one. Make sure you are referring and using your original approved budget that is located on the web. Make sure on Form 1A, you are entering in the approved budget from your initial approved budget in column 3, which is highlighted in yellow. When you complete Form 2, which is for personnel, and Form 3 for non-personnel, the revised amounts will automatically calculate and complete column 4 and 5. And here is a screenshot of Form 1A, which is part of the budget revision process and the form that is required, in addition to Form 1 that we covered, as well as Form 2 and Form 3. So your initial approved budget amounts that can be located from pulling your budget from the city web, those numbers need to be inputted under column 3 on Form 1A. Very, very important. Make sure you are referencing that approved budget. You may have another budget that may have been a draft, but through the process, there may have been some back and forth. So you just want to make sure you have the correct numbers under column 3. This is something that we run across, and we don't want to add to further delays in processing if this information is not correct. And all the header information and the required information as it relates to your contract number, your contract term, your PO release number, your budget term, your funding strip, all of this information is on your approved budget. So please be sure to use that as a reference. These are the minimal required forms for a budget revision, which is Form 1, Form 1A, which is termed the revised contract budget, Form 2, additional forms for personnel if needed, 2A, 2B, 2C, and Form 3, non-personnel. Once again, forms are locked from editing, only input in the shaded yellow areas. My team has completed an analysis based on revisions that we've received, and we wanted to bring this to your attention for something to pay particular attention to when going through this process. If these can be addressed, you will be in great shape. Hoping to streamline and get the processing of these submitted revisions, as soon as we possibly can, with the volume that we are working with.
Anita, we have a few questions. I know we're running out of time, so let me know when you're ready for those.
Okay, you want to go ahead and ask those questions? I want to see if it may be something that I'm going to cover. It may not be. So,
well, there are some specific questions that I think I'll send to our youth service coordinators that can help. But just in general, we will be sending a follow-up of this presentation to all those folks who registered. So watch out for that, along with all the forms that I shared in the chat and the website to check your approved budget. And then someone asked, how long does a budget revision approval usually take? And obviously the deadline for that.
It varies. It depends on, there's multiple reviews that take place. So you'll be working, hand in hand with your program liaison. They will complete a preliminary review. Depending on their review, there might be some outreach back to your agency. Once the program completes the review, it will be forwarded to the assigned accountant. Accountant will review and will outreach if necessary to the agency for any needed corrections. And then it will be forwarded on to the supervisor. Turnaround with the supervisor is within 48 hours upon receipt. Depending if there's additional feedback, then that would require outreach. And then from that time, the accountant will be responsible for submitting the budget for approval with the city comptroller's office. And that can be anywhere between 3 to 5 days for their approval process. So it varies. There's not a set timeline, but we are actively working to ensure that any revisions that are received by the team are reviewed in a timely fashion and move through the process. And we can provide, more specific updates as needed for an agency when the time comes. And I see we're at 11 o'clock, so I'm going to try to go through this really quickly. Okay, for revisions, we've already discussed on how to retrieve your budget from the city web. Form 1 and Form 1A, please leave anything blank that says entered by department, only enter fields that are required by the agency. Form 2, make sure fringe benefits are correct. Make sure descriptions are added for line 17 and 18. Make sure you're not putting a specific employee name, but just the staff position title under Form 2 and Form 2A. Form 3, make sure you're providing a description and justification under the total column. Under 0999, make sure you're including an attachment A if you're requesting a stipend. Please refrain from requesting equipment under the materials and supplies line. Equipment is not applicable to the youth division delegate agencies. Indirect cost calculations. There is a specific calculation if you're using the 10% de minimis that our city comptroller's office wants us to use, and it is indicated here. Make sure if you're not claiming indirect, elect to decline indirect cost recovery. Make sure that is stated on your Form 3. And if you're using the federally negotiated rate, please provide a copy when you're submitting your budget. And then just some upcoming policy changes from our Office of Budget Management, contracts and amendments no longer need wet signatures. A notary will no longer be required. No longer required is signature authorizations. Just let us know if there's any changes to the current authorized personnel that's linked to your contract. budget revisions, budget amendments. City is going to be continuing to accept PDFs, no manual signatures or what signatures are required, and bank depository and EFT forms no longer required to submit with each of the contracts. And then there are going to be some upcoming certification changes within iSupplier, specifically as it relates to invoice certification forms and tax certification forms. So instead of including those with each of your vouchers, they will be part of standard language within the iSupplier module. There will be upcoming delegate agency iSupplier trainings that will take place in August. As soon as we get those dates, we will forward that information out to our agencies to learn about the impacts of these changes. But it's in an effort to help streamline the process. And last but not least, important deadlines for the summer employment program. Budget revisions are due no later than September 1st. Evelyn mentioned, she received a few already. She's working on them. If you have them, get them in. But September 1st is the deadline. In regards to invoicing for the summer program, October 22nd for 2021 will be the due date. And this will also include any resubmissions. So if you have any vouchers that were rejected or have deletions, they will need to be resubmitted by the state as well. And for enrichment and prevention and intervention, October 1st, that is the deadline for budget revisions. Of course, if you have revisions that are ready to go at this time, please work with your program liaison so we can process them. And then January 31st, 2022 will be when all final delegate agency invoices for 2021 will be due. Of course, you should be vouchering monthly, but any remaining 2021 related invoices will have a date of January 31st, including resubmissions as it relates to rejections and deletions. And just a reminder, when we get to January and you have a December invoice, do not combine the calendar years of December with January. Please submit these separately. And I think with that, we are past time. Maria, if we can just compile any questions that have come about, and we will follow up on the back end with getting those addressed and getting it back to the listserv.
Yes, I forgot to put myself on mute. You probably heard me typing away. There are quite a few questions, and I'm going to make sure that our team gets those to address those. Thank you all for joining. We will be sending the recording and the other documents that I mentioned earlier.
Oh, somebody made a quick comment about vouchering. I would say voucher every pay period. Makes it easier.
Yes, we highly recommend monthly vouchering. Please don't wait until the end of the year and voucher in a batch. We need to consistently voucher.
You want to voucher twice a month? Go for it. You know what I mean? Like, just keep your cash flow moving because we understand this is reimbursement.
Yes. Oh, and one more thing to note with your budget revision, when the time comes for my team to actually enter that and submit it to the comptroller's office, make sure there are no active vouchers in queue. So get your vouchering done, hold off until your revision is approved, and then you can proceed with vouchering based on the approved budget revision. That was another thing that happens that can result in delays.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Look forward to the budget revision season.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.